What is up? Welcome to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. It is draft season, which means it is ranking season and apparently Taylor Swift season, but that's a story for another show. Last week, we went over our quarterback rankings. We move on to the running backs this week. They do, in fact, matter. The rankings are currently live on Club Fantasy. Now it's time for my rankers to defend them. Let's get into it. What is up? Welcome to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Ryan Weisse. I'd like to start the show by welcoming the 1.3 million of you that are jumping over from the New Heights podcast. You're done with Taylor Swift. You're ready to hear about Club Fantasy's running back rankings. Let me introduce you to my co-host and my rankers. With me, as always, Josh Hudson. Josh, how are you, my friend?
See, you found a Taylor Swift joke after all.
There you go.
I applaud you. Good job, Ryan. Good job.
You're welcome.
Exactly. Austin's the star of the show by making sure that I'm on my P's and Q's. Josh, how you doing tonight?
Not too shabby. Feeling a little under the weather, so this will be the light version of my Jordan flu game. But you know,
okay.
We'll get through it.
Thankfully, there's not too many things we have to pick on you about. Like we had to start the show by yelling at you about Baker Mayfield last week. So
I'm sure there's something that I'm gonna piss people off with. So Don't worry about it.
No Chris Molina this week, but we do have my DFS and mock draft co-host Austin Amandolia. Austin, how are you?
Doing good. You know, I'm excited that Josh is under the weather tonight. Usually, he's the one that comes at me for all my takes, so maybe it'll tame you down tonight, Josh.
I thought you were just
the fact that you think this is going to tame me down is just absolutely hilarious and tells me that you haven't learned anything about working with me over the past 4 years, Austin.
I just thought you were weirdly happy Josh was sick and there was some animosity going on in the background that I was not aware of, but happy to hear it's not that. And Joel Wirth, welcome, my friend.
What's up? I know like one Taylor Swift song, and I can't think of I've got a blank space to write some running.
There you go.
I'm an old. I don't know any Taylor Swift songs.
You're the problem, Joel. It's you.
I am. I am.
He doesn't get that reference. Right?
I know. It was for you, Austin.
That was so rude.
And the it's a Taylor Swift song.
That was a Taylor Swift joke. I have no idea.
The 1.3 million new viewers that we are enjoying right now. Joel, this episode is the anti-Joel episode, though you're also the only one who brings a moment of clarity to this episode because you, my friend, are zero running back. We're going to talk more about that later in the show, though. So
it is. Yeah, I was talking to Chris. I should probably just turn my back and let you guys go. But no, I'm going to talk about running backs. It's all good.
Chris said he's sitting out in protest for you in honor of you tonight. Guys, I'm going to give you quick NFL news. I'm going to let you guys just react to whatever you want to react to. We're going to make it quick. I want to get into the running backs. Josh and I were talking. It took us 17 minutes to talk quarterbacks last week. Let's not do that again. So when we look at the news, there's really only one piece of running back news, so I'll save that for last. We got Shedeur Sanders is going to be out with a strained oblique after a pretty decent preseason game. He's going to miss the second game. The Browns already have Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel hurt. Myles Garrett, another Browns news, gets ticketed for 100 miles an hour, driving 100 miles an hour. I bring this up because this is essentially what happened with Jordan Addison. So I think there could be problems looming for Myles Garrett.
Yeah, but Addison's was a DUI, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes. See, I thought it was just 125. Okay, I did not know his was a DUI. Okay.
They found him sleeping in his car, drunk as a skunk. So yeah.
But then, maybe I'm just getting all my stories confused then. Okay, regardless, Myles Garrett, 100 miles an hour, probably won't get in trouble then.
He also did that when he said his dog was sick or something. And
okay. So
he got busted
I'm conflating the two. Now I get. Thank you very much.
Parked in a McDonald's parking lot, drunk. Yeah.
Jordan Addison, he's one of us. Jordan Love is going to undergo a procedure on his left thumb. Says he should be good for week 1. And this one was shocking to me. I didn't know how bad this actually was. It came out that Brandon Ayuk is targeting a weak 6 return. So he's going to the PUP. He's not coming back till week 6. And as I mentioned, one piece of running back news literally broke in the middle of one of my drafts this morning, and I was able to select James Cook, the new man, the newly paid man, 4 years, $48 million to stay with the Buffalo Bills. Josh, what do you got on the news?
Took long enough. Once Kieran Williams' contract came out, I was going back and forth with Chris Molina, who, he's a big Rams fan. And I told him, I said, Kieran Williams getting the deal that he got is bad news for James Cook and his holdout, because Cook wants, 15 plus million. There was no way that was going to happen. He basically got the same amount of guaranteed money James Cook did that Kieran Williams got, just the extra year on top of it. I think it's a good deal for the Bills. Truthfully, I think it's a good deal for James Cook. He was never going to get that 15 million plus, because while he's efficient, he's not the elite type of back that like your Derrick Henrys and your Saquon Barkleys and, Christian McCaffreys are. So I think it's a good deal. It pays him, kind of mid top 10 money. And that, I believe, is what he is in terms of running backs in the NFL that are eligible for a new contract. Let me preface that.
Austin, any thoughts on Cook or any of the other news?
No major thoughts on Cook. I'm not super excited about him for fantasy in general. I think he's going to regress in terms of touchdowns this year, which is going to take his value down a little bit, but good for him. We love seeing people get paid. The only other note I have on the notes is what the heck is going on in Cleveland and all of their quarterback injuries. Spoiler alert, Matt and I just recorded a best ball episode where we go through the week 17 matchups, and our least favorite matchup is the Cleveland Browns game. And this is all the more reason.
You don't know who's going to be playing in that game. It's hard to predict best ball when you should be avoiding the team like the plague.
Yeah, it's awful. So Cleveland, not a good situation right now, and seems just to be getting worse and worse.
Joel, my Packers fan, you got anything on Jordan Love for me or any of the other news?
Love will be fine. It's on his left hand. He practiced with it on Monday and was totally fine. They just decided he hit his hand on a helmet on Saturday, and they just decided to go ahead and fix it. So yeah, he'll be fine.
Yeah,
for
I was puzzled by the wording where they were like a procedure, and I'm like, is a procedure surgery? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, they said it was surgery on a tendon, so which is kind of weird. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he's going to be fine. He'll be, like I said, he practiced and was totally fine on Monday, so he'll be good to go. The Ayuk thing is. Like they're saying, they're saying it could be much later than that. So not that this should be surprising because he had the multiple ligament injury. So that's I'm
just glad we finally have a timetable.
Yeah,
because for the longest time it was just like question mark.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what the fuck do I do with a question mark?
Take him out of my rankings because like even if he comes back, like he's going to be limited. So if he doesn't get back to like week 8, 9, 10, he's going to be pretty limited. Like you're going to have a couple weeks of him in fantasy that until the playoffs.
It's basically, he's going to be the month of December guy that helps you win.
Yeah. That's his only path really to being like a useful player. So the James Cook thing took him long enough, but it's basically, I don't think we've seen the structure yet, but it's basically the same deal that Josh Jacobs got last year from the Packers. So just get it done.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to move on to those running back rankings. Like I said, I'm not going to make you wait 17 minutes this time around. Our rankings can be found on clubfantasyffl.com. For the next 3 weeks, we will be defending our rankings. We did quarterbacks last week, obviously running backs this week. We're going to go on to wide receivers and tight ends over the next 2. The rankers are the 4 folks you see here, plus Chris Molina. Chris Molina was not able to make it. We were able to fix the glitch and get Joel on the site. So you will see the consensus ranking of all 5 of us on clubfantasyffl.com. These rankings were updated. I did mine, I think, yesterday, made sure the show sheet was up to date. So we are ready to rock, and we are going to start at the top. The consensus top 12 from the Club Fantasy rankings. We got Bijan Robinson at 1, Jahmyr Gibbs, Ashton Jeanty, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey is the top 5. De'Von Achane at 6, Derrick Henry at 7, Bucky Irving at 8, Jonathan Taylor at 9. Chase Brown brings up 10, Kieran Williams at 11, Breece Hall at 12. When I was trying to decide where we wanted to start the show, I was talking to Josh because I always like to start the show with the thumbnail. And I gave Josh 3 options for the thumbnail, but I think we're just going to start the show talking about these 3 options in a group setting. I don't have any direct questions for either one of you here. So I think we need to start this thing talking about Ashton Jeanty, Saquon Barkley, and Christian McCaffrey. And we're going to start the whole thing off with the thumbnail, which is the rookie, Ashton Jeanty. Austin, when we look at our rankings, we are all very high on this rook. Nobody has him rated below RB6. It seems we are as confident as him as we were in Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson kind of burned us. I think he was RB10, RB11 that season. Are we overconfident in Jeanty? What could go wrong in this situation, Austin?
Well, let's be clear. Arthur Smith burned us whenever it was Bijan Robinson's rookie season. What could go wrong for Ashton Jeanty? He could get hurt. Like that's reality with every running back.
That's it. Oh, okay. I was like, are you just saying that's the only thing that could go wrong?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, truly, like I don't see a pathway where he is not an elite running back out of the gate. There's no competition for him in this running back room. He can touch the ball 20 plus times per game. He'll be active in the pass game as well. Maybe the offense, maybe he doesn't score as many touchdowns because the offense isn't as good. I kind of don't care. All right. Especially in PPR leagues. I think he's going to be fine. I think his floor is top 10, but I would be surprised if he falls outside of the top 5 this year.
Josh, if he pulls a Bijan Robinson and Austin said, his floor is top 10 and he's the RB10, is that a disappointment?
I mean, I guess since you're taking him top 3, but at the end of the day, I feel like when you're drafting a running back with one of your top 5 picks, you're doing it because you know that you're going to get top 10 production. It's not necessarily, hey, if I draft Jahmyr Gibbs as RB2, I want RB2 or RB1 production, right? Like you're basically saying, I want the safe bet that's going to be week in and week out production. So maybe not a disappointment in terms of, overall performance, but Austin, I will counterpunch your what could go wrong. What could go wrong is literally the first preseason game. 3 carries, -1 yards. That Raiders offensive line is dog shit, straight up. So he's going to have to break even more tackles than he broke at Boise State last year. And he broke a lot of tackles at Boise State. So, that's truly what could go wrong. But I mean, when you're comparing like Bijan's rookie season to Ashton Jeanty's rookie season, to me, they're apples and oranges. Like, Bijan went into a situation where they literally had a 1,000-yard rusher from the previous season on the roster. Ashton Jeanty's not walking into that situation. Raheem Mostert is a freaking dinosaur at this point in RB years, and truly was not like he literally benefited 2 years ago just from scoring 18 touchdowns. Let's be real. That was the definition of a career year. Hasn't come close to that in any season he's ever played in the NFL. He is a backup. Plain and simple. But what I do know about Chip Kelly's offenses, they absolutely love to not only run the football, but feature the running back. And I watched this in Philly for 3 seasons. Ashton Jeanty is going to get fed. Plain and simple.
Joel, you're my running back pessimist. I'm probably going to come to you last a lot on this show. You happen to be the lowest on Jeanty, but when I say lowest, it's not like you're low. I don't want to put you in a corner here, but do you see any scenario where it's worse than the fantasy community thinks it is?
Yeah, I mean, he's a rookie on a team with a bad offensive line and an offense that doesn't have a ton of skill players. Like you've got your best skill player, not named Jeanty, as a tight end, on a team that's got a really bad defense, isn't probably going to be playing from behind a lot. There's definitely scenario. Like I like Jeanty.
All I heard was 100 targets for Ashton Jeanty. I'm just throwing that out there.
Here's the thing that gets me about this.
Great talent, but this is not a good situation. This coaching staff has to carry a lot of weight with this team because they are pretty bereft of talent. Other than Bowers and Jeanty, this team doesn't have any talent. Let's be honest.
Stop sleeping on Jacoby Myers. What's the matter with you?
Agree. Also,
Jacoby Myers is fine.
What the heck happened to y'all and thinking this offensive line is that bad? Whenever we did the NFL mock draft earlier this year, literally, when we did the NFL mock draft earlier this year, the club fantasy group was roasting me for taking an offensive line with the Vegas Raiders pick. Y'all were like, oh, they don't really need that. Why would you take a tackle there? And now all of a sudden their offensive line is garbage. What the heck happened, y'all? I thought they were fine. They didn't.
No, their line's always been garbage, but
always been garbage.
They also need skill players. Like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like they're off this. If they end up drafting a tackle, who the fuck are they blocking for? They have no skill players outside of Bowers, right? So like that's really what it boils down to. You have to get weapons there. Why do you think the Giants, instead of drafting a tackle, said, you know what? We need somebody to catch the fucking football. Let's get Malik Neighbors. Like sometimes you have to make those decisions. And that's ultimately what the Raiders did here. You have Colton Miller. That's it. Like he's a good tackle. He's not a great tackle in my opinion. He's okay. They drafted that Jackson Powers, whatever is the Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon playing right guard. Like, they drafted a couple guys in the 3rd round that are ultimately backups right now. Like, that's really all they have. They have a throw, wet paper towels against the wall and see what sticks kind of offensive line. Like, that's really what they're working with here.
For what it's worth, Football Guys has Matt Batanti, who ranks offensive linemen for us. He has not updated his ranks in a while. Matt, get on it. But on his last update, which was June, he had the Raiders as the 21st best offensive line, the worst pass blocking offensive line, but the 21st best rushing line. So I don't know how that makes them 21st overall. But again, I don't do these rankings. I'm just stating what I can find from a person I trust. So yeah, maybe we should have taken you more seriously, Austin, when you suggested that they should have taken an offensive line. Just take your win.
Yeah, but then let's be real here. Then you're talking about Raheem Mostert as your RB1. Nobody wants that.
Yeah,
also, this was not a strong offensive line class. So
that's why we were mad at you, Austin.
Yeah, I think you're better off just taking the guy is an elite prospect.
Moving on, we're going to talk Saquon Barkley. Josh, you wrote an entire article about the downfall of high volume backs like Saquon Barkley and high yardage backs like Saquon Barkley. Yet, none of us are really willing to show it in our rankings, though none of us have him at RB1, if I remember correctly. Yeah, just looking, the highest we have him is 2 with Austin. None of us have him at 1, which makes us different than the large amount of rankers in the fantasy community, because Barkley is going off as a 1 in a lot of places. Are we discounting the risk? But I guess the question is the rest of the fantasy community discounting the risk, Joel? And what would you say your expectations for his volume and yardage would be this season, Saquon Barkley?
I'm just going to come out and admit it. I'm being a coward with this ranking because I don't think he belongs here. I think there's very serious concern about his workload. He had 480 touches last year. That's insane. A responsible organization would not let him come anywhere close to that. Will Shipley is my most drafted best ball player over a lot of drafts, and it's not even close. And Barkley is my least drafted first-round player. So I have very serious concern. I'm not saying he's going to be injured. I'm just saying there's going to be massive pullback on his workload. A lot of his production last year came on long runs. That's not sustainable. Philly's got a much tough, they're going from the easiest schedule to probably the hardest schedule in the league by far. So they're not going to be able to just sit back and run as much as they did last year. So yeah, I don't feel comfortable with this ranking at all. We'll talk about CMC. I think CMC should probably be ranked ahead of Barkley.
There you go. Austin, thoughts? Sticking with Barkley, not CMC quite yet.
Sure. Well, my 3rd highest exposure best ball player on Underdog right now is also Will Shipley. So,
okay, I thought you were going to say Saquon Barkley. I'm like, holy shit, how many ones are you spending on Saquon Barkley?
No, I actually have very little of Saquon in best ball. I think I've actually only drafted him once, and it was an auto draft. Oops. I sort of agree with Joel in the way that I feel like I am also being a little bit of a coward with this ranking, and that I have him higher than I actually feel comfortable drafting him, because it's hard for me to make him go any lower because of what we just saw him do. But I have major concerns with him coming and repeating anywhere close to where he did last year. Before this year, the only player to have back-to-back 1,400-yard seasons since 2003 is Derrick Henry, and I'm a little concerned that Saquon Barkley is not Derrick Henry. And we've talked about this before with Josh on the mock draft shows, and I think I've said it a bunch of times in general on Mock It Like It's Hot. The Philadelphia Eagles are not going to be playing from ahead as much as they were last year. I just do not think that they're going to be able to get up by 2-3 touchdowns by halftime and then run the ball to Saquon Barkley the entire second half, which is how he got most of his production.
Josh, I moved to you after Austin threw shots at your Philadelphia Eagles.
No, that's okay. Look, I'm the lowest amongst all of us on Saquon Barkley. He's my RB7 this year. And again, a lot of it just boils down to 2,000-yard rushers. They don't do it again, people. It's just a simple fact. So, I mean, I still have him over 1,300 yards, which I think even that is probably being generous. But, I mean, you look at, he had 13 total rushing touchdowns last year. Less than half of them came in the red zone. So, basically what Joel said is a lot of his production on big plays, long runs, that is in the numbers. Like, that type of production doesn't always sustain year to year. Like, you see this all the time. Bill Barnwell writes up a column every year for ESPN where basically he takes into account, teams that are likely to outperform based on expected wins and underperform based on expected wins. And it's all because of, their 1-loss record in 1-score games. And teams that do exceedingly well one year tend to fall back to the field the previous year, right? So like if you go, let's say 7-1 in 1-score games, you're more than likely to go 3-6 or 2-7 or something along those lines the next year, because it's just that much harder. It's the same thing here with big plays. Like, yes, Saquon Barkley is so incredibly talented that anytime he touches the football, you run the risk as a defense of yielding a touchdown. That's the nature of his big play ability. But you're already seeing this now. Our right guard, Landon Dickerson, already hurt, dealing with a meniscus injury, right? Like, this was the best offensive line in football last year. They were relatively healthy all of last year. They lost their starting guard, Mekhi Becton, to the Chargers. You're breaking in a third-year guy that wasn't able to break in those first 2 years. Now you're down Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, the center, coming back from a back injury. There's a lot of things on this team that can go wrong. I'm not even going to sugarcoat that. The Super Bowl hangover, even for winners, is a real thing, people.
Yeah.
Like, you will have hurdles. Everybody has you circled on the calendar. They are bringing their best every single week. So, yeah, I do expect a little bit of regression because, again, if they're not giving it to Barkley inside the 20, inside the 5, like, that's going to limit his fantasy ceiling, plain and simple. Like, he scored 15 total touchdowns last year. If you told me he only scored 8 this year, he's not a top 3 running back. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen because this offense doesn't throw to the running back position very much.
Yeah, the lack of PPR upside is something that has hurt Barkley in my rankings as well. And then after reading Josh's article and just the massive amount of case studies on those touches, it was easy to move him down. Guys, let's wrap up this, I guess, top 5 discussion with Christian McCaffrey. And so we're kind of going the opposite direction with Christian McCaffrey. We all saw the tremendous amount of red flags last season with McCaffrey, but we're not scared apparently because none of us have him ranked lower than RB6. So it seems, Josh, we are all ready to buy in on the Christian McCaffrey bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep this one really, really simple because if anybody remembers what the waiting room looked like at their last urgent care visit, that's basically the San Francisco wide receiver room right now. At the end of the day, who else is going to get any sort of production on this 49ers offense? It's Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. So if you're not buying into any one of them, you're playing fantasy football wrong.
Joel, I know you hate just talking. Well, maybe you don't hate. You certainly hate talking positively about these highly ranked running backs. But are you bought in that Christian McCaffrey? And you mentioned you should probably move him ahead of Barkley. Is Christian McCaffrey worth moving up on those draft boards?
Yeah. Speaking of best ball exposures, CMC is my highest first round player. Highest, probably top 15, 16 players. I think we need to understand there are very few players in fantasy who are legitimate difference makers. And CMC, if healthy, if he plays 16, 17 games, is just the best fantasy player on available. So Shanahan is just so good at getting him into space, getting in the ball with opportunity. And he's just really good with the ball in his hands. So yeah, if he can stay healthy, there is legit 101 upside there. And I'm just not going to pass on that.
Yeah. Hoove, I see your question. It actually fits perfectly into a section that you're probably going to see 20 minutes from now. So we will get to it, just not anytime soon. Austin, wrap us up on Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. To me, it's the opposite of what I said about Ashton Jeanty. For Ashton Jeanty, if he gets hurt, that's the way it fails for him. Christian McCaffrey, as long as he's healthy, he's top 3 running back in my mind. I have no doubt about it. We've seen it plenty of times before. Everything Joel just said is super accurate. He's a touchdown machine. He's very efficient in terms of yardage. He plays a very important role in the pass game. I feel like McCaffrey is probably one of the best values on the board right now, even though he's going in the first round.
Yep, that's basically how I started feeling. Every time a 49ers receiver got hurt, I gave Christian McCaffrey more targets, and he just kept slowly and surely moving up my rankings. We were able to stay pretty positive in that section. It's going to be relatively negative in the next section because what I wanted to look at were guys that were ranked in the current top 12 that at least one of my rankers is the lowest on and probably doesn't even have in the top 12. I'm calling this the why do you hate them section. So Josh, get me started. Chris sent me a text when he told me he wasn't going to be on this show that I needed to be the defender of Kyren Williams. And I didn't know how he was going to fit into the show sheet until I saw your ranking. Why do you hate Kyren Williams, Josh?
Well, it's less hate. I do think in terms of floors, I think he's arguably one of the safest running backs that you can draft in fantasy or buy if you're doing an auction draft. But you'll notice a theme throughout this entire episode for me. Josh, I want running backs to catch passes.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. And yes, Kyren Williams had 40 targets last year. Pretty solid. The Rams as a team were tied for the fewest targets to the running back position in all of the NFL last year with 55. So yes, it's a really good sign that he had 40 out of those 55 targets. We know he's going to score touchdowns. He finished as the RB10 last year in points per game. But when you look at guys that, finished behind him that are going ahead of him in drafts right now, or that at least that I have ranked ahead of him, Chase Brown really didn't play a full season last year as the lead guy. He's going to get that opportunity this year. Same thing with Bucky Irving. He's the head of that split now in Tampa. I expect a big time bounce back from Breece Hall. Then you've got some of the other rookies. You inserted Ashton Jeanty there. Everything even on the table, everybody stays healthy. To me, he's not a top 12 guy in those types of situations. But here's the thing. We all know running backs are getting hurt, plain and simple. Yeah. So it's just going to be a matter of, does he remain healthy? And if he does, then yeah, he's going to be a top 10 guy.
Yeah, and even more so, the one thing I throw in is, does he really even need to remain healthy? That first year, I think he played the first breakout year. He only played like 12 games and still.
Yeah, and again, it's simply because he sees 85 to 90% of the running back workload there. So, giving him the contract extension, maybe they just say, you know what? Fuck it. We're still going to run the same exact scheme and do the exact same thing. But I will say this about the pass catching side of things. If this Stafford injury really blows up, and we get more Jimmy Garoppolo, those RB targets are going to skyrocket for Kyren Williams, and everybody that's drafting him is going to be in heaven.
Well, it really sucks when Josh makes your point for you, because that's exactly where I was going to go with this. Is we may not have Matthew Stafford, and we may not have 100% Matthew Stafford. We may see a change in RB targets, and then you throw in the second-round tight end, Terrence Ferguson. They don't know when he's going to be back. Colby Parkinson is still more of a blocker than a pass catcher, and Tyler Higbee is old. There is a correlation between tight end targets and running back targets, and while the offense doesn't typically target the running back, there could be a shift where they're like, we need to get our best short
yardage. Well, especially with how much they're talking up, Ferguson, that tight end they got from Oregon, it just kind of tells me that they want to focus more on the tight end versus the running back in terms of targets.
Well, like I said, though, I just read the report that they're not even putting a date on him coming back from an injury right now. So he's going to be a slow developer is what I'll say. Austin, why do you hate Chase Brown?
Primarily because I'm a hater. I
guess I should always point out where these people have these people ranked. I guess that would be good entertainment. Josh had Kyren Williams at 15. Austin has Chase Brown at 15.
Yeah, I could play the game where I'm like, well, it's just like I like the other guys more, but also I just don't believe is really the issue here. I don't believe that he's gonna have the same level of production we saw down the stretch for a full 17 game season. And I don't know, the Bengals offense stresses me out whenever I start to think about it too much, because there are moments where I'm like, y'all are really great. And then there are moments where I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And the defense let them down at the end of last year, but them having a slow start, I just can never get September Cincinnati Bengals football out of my brain. True. And because what ends up happening is I watch them for 3 to 4 weeks and then I quit watching them. My attention.
And then by the time they're good, you're not watching them anymore.
And I'm like, whatever. Yeah, exactly. I just think that, I think it's I'm concerned about the volume, and I think they'll be more pass heavy, and maybe that benefits him, but they also kind of have more receiving weapons than they did last year. So I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm just not convinced he's going to get 80% of the carries. I'm like, what if it's 65%? He's not going to be then a true workhorse the way we want him to be at that point.
The only thing I'll throw out to that for a counter, and I'll let one of you others counter if you'd like as well, is who else are they giving the ball to? But
Samaje Perine.
So who else are they giving the ball to? No, I've wavered on Chase Brown often, and every time I do, somebody comes up with a great counterpoint that makes me not hate him as much. Josh or Joel, do you have that counterpoint for Austin?
65%. If he gets 65% of the running back touches, he's top 5 in the league. That's a ton in this era of NFL football. I'm not a huge Taj Brooks. I like him as a prospect. I don't think he's legit ready to go. Some IJP runs just a blocking back, but you give him 65% of the running back touches. That's a ton.
And that's really what it boils down to for me when it comes to Chase Brown. The Bengals have showed us who they are when it comes to distributing touches, running back shares, all that kind of stuff. Dating back to Joe Mixon, they did literally the exact same thing with Chase Brown last year. They did not bring in any legitimate competition for him. This is his backfield. So I think we as a fantasy community would be absolutely stupid, no offense, Austin, to not believe them.
Jesus.
I just don't want to draft him. Like, it's totally fine. Like,
and that's fair. And you literally preface this, I'm just a hater. So, I get it. Like,
yeah, like it's that simple. Like, I know logically, like, I should probably draft him, but there's something about it. I'm like, and I think, I honestly think I have a bias because I play a lot of half PPR leagues. And so I'm like, I don't care that you're going to get catches as much as you do, Josh. And I think Chase Brown for PPR leagues in particular is going to be even more valuable there. But for me, I'm like, I care about touchdowns. And you know who I think is going to get touchdowns in this offense? Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and whoever the heck the tight end is.
Yeah.
And 100% that's fair. I mean, even when you look at Chase Brown's metrics, they're not great. But you know what? Joe Mixon's metrics weren't great either, and he was consistently a top 10 running back. So.
Joel, you were the hardest one for this section because your consensus top 12 is the consensus top 12 for the most part, but you do have Breece Hall at 13. You're technically not even the lowest on Breece Hall. I am, but I have to give you someone to talk shit about. So why do you hate Breece Hall?
Don't hate the player, hate the ADP.
Okay.
Like, this team has said all offseason that they want to run with all 3 backs. I'll kind of believe it when I see it when it comes to Isaiah Davis, but Braylon Allen's a legit good back.
Yeah.
And I just don't think also talking about 65% for Chase Brown. Breece Hall's not going to touch that if he stays with the Jets. Now I don't want to do this whole trade thing. Like, if there has been rumblings about him possibly being traded, this Dallas backfield looks like an absolute disaster. So it seems unlikely because Jerry Jones just doesn't do that. But like, if that happened, he would absolutely skyrocket. He's probably pushing a top 5 back in that offense.
Yeah.
But in this one, now I think there's opportunity with Justin Fields. Like you guys have said often before, Justin Fields does like to throw to the running back, unlike most other running quarterbacks. But I think his snap share is going to be really limited, and it's really hard to get. Like, he's moved down some on underdog. He's moved into the 4th round pretty consistently now. He was going early 3rd round, and that was, or mid to late 3rd round, and that was kind of tough to swallow. So I'm okay with this price point when he's in the 4th round. But yeah, in the 3rd round was kind of tough to swallow.
That's fair. Josh, I'll let you counter because I know Breece Hall is your guy. As the person who is the lowest on Hall, for me, it has been the coach speak of the 3-headed monster. So.
I don't buy into coach speak very often.
I do.
Dan Campbell. So that's like the only one that, really at the end of the day, Breece Hall is the most talented of these 3 backs. He's the guy in the contract year. So if you're the Jets, there's quite literally zero reason to give your most talented running back the most carries if he's healthy enough. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. But, we talked about this during the Jets preview. Justin Fields over the last 2 years as a starter has actually targeted the running back position about 20% of the time, which is 10. It's a little more unconventional when you have quarterbacks that tend to run a ton.
Yeah.
Instead of dumping it off, they're like, well, I can get 6 yards by myself. So they do it themselves. Justin Fields is targeting the running back. And when you look at the wide receiver position, Breece Hall is their wide receiver too as well. So he's a guy that could very easily see 80 or more targets. And again, if I have a guy that's seen 80 or more targets, there's a good chance he's a top 12 running back this year.
I'll quickly jump in on Derrick Henry, and if you guys want to counterpoint me, but I'm going to blame Fantasy Pros. So Derrick Henry, I rank in half PPR because the Fantasy Bros contest is half PPR. Derrick Henry is my RB9, which puts me mildly low on him. But when you shift it over to PPR because of his non-PPR upside, he falls to 13th in my rankings. I would probably have him ahead of that. I'd probably have him right at 9 where I have him. But like I said, for this, the way their algorithm works, it just kills him in my rankings. Like I would take, I'm looking at the people who I have ranked ahead. I would take Henry ahead of Kamara. I would take Henry ahead of Josh Jacobs. So there are plenty of people I would move him up for, but the algorithm just kills me there. I don't hate Derrick Henry, but I hate him in PPR apparently.
And that's the whole thing with Derrick Henry. He's so touchdown reliant, but he always scores touchdowns, plain and simple. So like the amount of touchdowns is just always going to outweigh how much receiving production somebody else can have.
I think Joel put it best, and I think I wrote the same thing in my blurb for Football Guys. When Joel wrote his Lamar Jackson article on his player blurb for Derrick Henry, he's like, I'm not going to bet against the guy until he gives me a reason to bet against the guy. And I think I'm with you on that, Joel. Like I said, the algorithm killed me here. So because Chris immediately gave me shit on Derrick Henry, and it's like, I don't hate Derrick Henry. The algorithm in my rankings hates Derrick Henry. Josh, as we get out of the top 12, I did have to give you 30 seconds to talk about your main guy, De'Von Achane, because you have him ranked as your RB3. And I know at points this season, I think he had damn near made it up to your RB2. So there may have been some adjustments there, but regardless, you were very high. Tell us in 30 seconds why we should all love him.
So last year with Tua Tagovailoa as the starting quarterback, De'Von Achane was the literal RB1 in points per game. He had a better season than Jahmyr Gibbs. He was on pace for 383 fantasy points from the running back position. And the best part is he had 6 total touchdowns last year. 5 of them came inside the red zone. So like for a diminutive back, he knows how to score inside the 20. So
whoa. That's not what Tyreek Hill says.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, and again, the Dolphins made a lot of improvements to try to get bigger up front, which again is going to help pave the way. They're already down one running back in Alexander Madison. Jalen Wright couldn't punch it in between the 5. At least Achane's small enough that he can just wiggle through small crevices and figure out a way to get in the end zone. But at the end of the day, he's got game-breaking speed. He can score from literally anywhere on the field. In 28 career games, he has 23 touchdowns. That's a pretty damn good average, if you ask me. Scores touchdowns, catches passes. That is chef's kiss for me in my rankings.
For Josh, he's Kyren Williams who catches passes. I guess that's a good argument to make.
I mean, six rushing touchdowns, 6 receiving touchdowns last year. I mean,
there you go.
I'll take it.
What do you guys think about our top 12? Drop it in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you bought back in on Christian McCaffrey, or you avoid him like the plague? We'd like to hear it in the comments. And while you're there, like, subscribe, do all those things that are going to help Club Fantasy move up the algorithm. We sure would appreciate it. Shows are going to look a little bit different this August than they have in the last few years. Typically in August, we had turned the shows over to the women of fantasy football. That was not the plan this season, but that does not mean we are not supporting women in fantasy football or the organization WOFF, Women in Fantasy Football. Josh, tell the folks a little bit what we are doing to support women in fantasy football this season.
Yeah, so we have our Gods and Goddesses of Fantasy Football tournament. Drafts are just about done. I think there might be one division that's still drafting, but it is a best ball tournament. We're doing weekly waivers. All of the, quote, buy-ins or donations towards our WAF Galvanized Scholarship Fund. We're also selling tournament T-shirts. We have some, tournament-style shirts, but then, Fantasy Football God, Fantasy Football Goddess. So I think anybody can relate to wanting to, hold that sort of mantle when it comes to their fantasy football prowess. It's all available at thegridirongoddess.com. You can use code WAF at checkout, save yourself 15%. But all of the profits from the sale of those shirts will go towards benefiting the WAF Galvanized Scholarship Fund. And for the month of August, we're raffling off a signed Nico Collins Texans jersey. There are 2 weeks left to get your raffle tickets. They are $5 a piece. You can do that at womenoffantasyfootball.com or go to the description of this video. If you're watching on YouTube, Spotify, or listening on Apple, it's all there in the description. Just click that link. Head over there, buy as many raffle tickets as you want. The more tickets you buy, obviously, better chance you have at winning. And all of the raffle ticket sales will go towards the WAF Galvanized Scholarship Fund, which works with Laura Oakman's Galvanized to provide scholarships to women who want to sharpen their skills as they build careers within sports media.
There we go. We're going to move on to the consensus 13 through 24. Here are the players at 13. We got Josh Jacobs, 14, Alvin Kamara, 15, Kenneth Walker. 16, James Cook, the aforementioned. He may move up at some point. 17, Chuba Hubbard. 18, James Conner. 19, second rookie. I'm an idiot. TreVeyon Henderson right behind him. Number 20 is Omarion Hampton. 21 is Aaron Jones. 22 is DeAndre Swift. RJ Harvey, another rookie, falls in at 23. Tony Pollard at 24. And where I wanted to get started with this section was, of these 12 players, only 4 of them happen to fall in one of our top 12s, and one of them happens to be multiple. So, Joel, I'm going to get started with you here. Me, you, and Austin all have Josh Jacobs in our top 12, whereas Josh and Chris are not bought in. Tell them why they're wrong and we're right.
They're probably betting on some regression and probably some injury risk because of all the touches he had last year. And that's legit, probably. I would push back and say that, on the other hand, like, the Packers have made substantial upgrades to their offensive line. They brought in Aaron Banks from San Francisco, so kind of a Mahler, same system. LaFleur runs the same Shanahan system when he runs the ball. They're moving Elton Jenkins over to center to replace Josh Myers, who's the weak link on their offensive line. Last year, they drafted Anthony Belton, I think, in the second round, who's probably not going to start, but is just a mauler in the run game and can probably be, the sixth offensive lineman if they go to a jumbo package. So I think they can be more efficient when they run the ball. They were not very efficient last year when they ran. Just that was all Josh Jacobs doing a lot of work on his own. So I think he can have some better opportunities. They've also been, like, I'm not at practice, I don't live in Green Bay, but they have been throwing to him a lot at practice during their training camp. So I think there's some receiving game upside that they didn't realized last year. He did get his first receiving touchdown in his career last year. Yeah. And, like, their wide receiver group is really beat up right now. I think that's good for Tucker Kraft. I think that's good for Luke Musgrave. I think this is going to be a top 5 team in 12 personnel as well. So
there you go.
I think this is a situation where he may not get as many touches, but I think they could be more efficient touches.
For a lot of the reasons we like Christian McCaffrey are the same reasons to like Josh Jacobs. And it's funny, we compare those wide receiving cores and those quarterbacks quite a lot. So a lot of similarities between those teams. Austin, I noticed you used Kenneth Walker for both of your questions in this section. So you're big on Kenneth Walker. You have him at 11, but we'll get it to in a little bit. You also see a path where he could be even higher than 11. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like he's got the upside there for sure. And the thing that is intriguing to me is having Clint Kubiak come over from New Orleans. So he has that experience with Alvin Kamara, who mentions in the comments. And I feel like if you imagine Kenneth Walker stepping into that type of role in this offense where he's playing a more significant pass catching role, suddenly Kenneth Walker becomes a very, very interesting running back.
Yeah, and as Austin alluded to, the chat it's an Alvin Kamara chat. Millie jumps in. The first question, where did we rank Alvin Kamara? And when we go all the way back to who I made wait, do we think Alvin Kamara is a top 5 candidate? Well, I am the highest ranked on Alvin Kamara, but he did not make my top 5 candidate question, which is coming up in a bit. But I do have Kamara at 11, and it's because, a lot like Josh, I love pass catching running backs, and a lot like why we love Christian McCaffrey and Joel likes Josh Jacobs. Who the hell else are they giving the ball to in New Orleans? Like, it's the walking wounded there. They have no tight ends, and as I pointed out before, there's a correlation between tight end targets and running back targets. They have Juwan Johnson, and that's it right now. They have Alvin Kamara, and that's it right now. You don't know what you're going to get out of these wide receivers. Kamara was targeted 89 times last year in just 14 games played, caught 68 of those balls for 543 yards. If I'm not mistaken, that is the second most receiving yards by a running back last year, behind only Josh's De'Von Achane. Didn't quite find the end zone as much as Achane, but touchdowns are not necessarily sticky. And let's also be clear, touchdowns are not necessarily going to be constant in a very bad New Orleans offense. And then the other part, Joel alluded to this with Breece Hall. I think there's a non-zero chance Alvin Kamara is not a Saint by the trade deadline. And Alvin Kamara is not a guy who I get worried about if the Saints move on from him. So do I love Alvin Kamara? I do. I'm drafting him a lot. Do I think he has top 5 upside? I'm not quite there yet. And just to answer Millie's question, since he jumped in a little bit late, Kamara falls in as our consensus RB 14. So we're not terribly low on him. He just didn't make the top 12. Josh, you apparently had the foresight, because I created this show sheet before this morning's news. And before this morning's news, you were the only ranker with James Cook in the top 12, I don't think this is a hard story to tell.
Well, I mean, look, any sane person will tell you James Cook is not scoring 16 touchdowns again. Most sane people will tell you he's also not going to score 4 like he did the previous 2 seasons. So you got to find the middle ground there. But I think what everybody wants to harp and focus on with James Cook is that his receiving upside was absolutely nuked last year. Well, how many fourth quarters did James Cook not play last year? They played ahead a lot. Well, if games are closer, James Cook is going to be more involved in the offense. When they give him a contract like this, 4 years, $48 million, he is a central part of this offense. Yeah. Josh Allen has never been afraid to throw the football to James Cook. He had over 50 targets his second year. But what I love about James Cook, he is arguably one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL. And when you're running behind Josh Allen, whose threat of running the football creates lanes for running backs, it allows you to be that much more efficient. So you take the add the touchdown regression. All right, cool. He can easily make up 2 or 3 touchdowns receiving. I think he had 4 receiving touchdowns last year or 2 years ago. So like there's a chance that he's going to score 10 plus touchdowns this year. You add on 5+ yards per carry. You add on 7.5, 8 yards per reception. He's going to be a top 12 running back this year.
Yeah. And
now that the contract is settled, he'll actually get some practice in, and I won't be so worried about, not taking hits in training camp and all that.
Yeah, there you go. And then we're going to go from the player we're highest on to the player we're lowest on from this section. I'm calling this section dragging them down because there's a ranker who is pulling these folks down in our rankings. And Josh, I'm just going to let you keep going. You've mentioned it on Twitter recently, and you've mentioned it for as many shows as I've done with you this summer. You are our lowest ranker on rookie Omarion Hampton. You are pulling him down the consensus. Talk to us.
For what it's worth, I did recently raise him up. He's my RB25 now, so there's that.
There you go.
Look, at the end of the day, it just boils down to Greg Roman's system. You can talk all you want about, Omarion Hampton flash pass catching chops in college. He's done this, he's done that. I mean, once upon a time, Frank Gore was in San Francisco and had 4 straight seasons with over 60 targets, and then never once in 4 years with Greg Roman had more than 36 targets. This offense just does not throw the football. Oh, well, what about LaShawn McCoy in Buffalo? Greg Roman threw to him. Check the wide receiver room. Not a single damn one of those Buffalo Bills had over 100 targets. Not all one of them. So if you think that Omarion Hampton is going to see 60+ targets, that means Ladd McConkey fell off the map. And in that case, why are we drafting him as a top 14 wide receiver? So that's really what I'm going to preface this with. Like, I'm this whole Najee Harris eye incident, it's a very freak accident, and which is another reason why I've been raising Omarion Hampton up.
Yeah,
I don't know when Najee's going to be ready. I don't know what his vision's going to look like. There's a non-zero chance that this is much more of a 60-40 split in favor of Hampton versus a 52-48 split in favor of Najee, which is what I was leaning on over the summer. So there's a lot that is now working in Omarion Hampton's favor that, yeah, he's probably going to be a top 24 running back, and I'm going to be wrong, and that's fine. But what I don't like is the ADP. People are drafting him, in my opinion, at his ceiling. He needs to have some level of pass catching upside because he is still going to be splitting, whether it's with Najee Harris, Kamani Vidal, whomever. I don't fucking know. Maybe the guy that he ends up splitting with isn't even on the fucking roster right now. But this is what Greg Roman is going to do. He's not going to feed Omarion Hampton 70 to 80% of the rushing opportunities, which means he's going to have an uphill battle when it comes to double-digit touchdowns and 1,300 to 1,400 plus rushing yards.
Fair warning, the next section of this tends to just flip these, where I'm going to ask these guys how to paint a top 5 story for one of these backs, and we picked a lot of the people who are mentioned in this section, so you're going to get counterpoints on some of this shortly. By this list, we're clearly some rookie haters, but Joel, I'm going to give you an opportunity to break my heart. I have multiple times in recent shows said that DeAndre Swift is the best value in fantasy football. Austin has fought me tooth and nail, but Joel, you get to burst my bubble tonight.
DeAndre, when he talked about Breece Hall, I said, don't hate the player, hate the ADP. You can just hate DeAndre Swift. He's a bad football player.
You bastard.
And this offense it may not be good. We need everybody thought, they got all these skill players and they're bringing in Ben Johnson. This can't miss. It has missed. The reports out of Bears camp is that they are struggling badly. Caleb Williams is not picking up the offense. He's
correct.
Completely inaccurate on his throws. like Johnson is so pissed off. He's yelling at people left and right. It's kind of a mess. This like the DeAndre Swift argument was based on this offense being really good and him being the lead back in it. If this offense is not good, he's useless. This is the guy who was the worst.
I mean, you can say that about most running backs in the NFL, though. Let's be honest.
That's fair. But this is the guy who was the worst graded running back through the first month of the season last year. The worst of any running back in the league. So, yeah, he's just not a good player.
I don't know that I'll go that far. I feel like he showed enough explosiveness when he gets the ball in his hands. Obviously,
yeah, when he was a rookie,
just to be tackled at the 1 yard line.
Yeah,
that was like 6 years ago, man. He has not aged gracefully.
That's true. I guess the other part for me, and this is not a counterpoint section. It's who else do they have? Like I don't know. Austin, you and I both
Roshan Johnson erasure.
Yeah, no, I'm not a Roshan Johnson guy. The funny thing was, Kevin calls out in the comments that I'm finally coming around on Swift. It's because I was too damn high on Roshan Johnson last year, but that's a story for another show. Austin, you and I are some rookie haters in Congress here. We feel the group might be too high on RJ Harvey.
Yeah, and I honestly, for this one, it's not even that I have anything against RJ Harvey. I think he's going to have a perfectly fine rookie season, and I think he could end up breaking the top 20. It's just that there are guys that you all have way lower that I have put in front of him. Like a great example of this is David Montgomery. I have him way higher than anyone else because I feel like David Montgomery is going to continue to have a role in the Detroit Lions offense the way he always has when he's been healthy. I have TreVeyon Henderson ahead of some of y'all. I have Joe Mixon ahead of Joel and Josh, who is like has him in the ranked and outside the top 30, you know? So like some of it, this one's more situational than anything. I don't have anything to hate on RJ Harvey about. He's going to have this backfield. There's no competition there. It just happens that I have some other guys that I like more than him.
Yeah. And you brought up TreVeyon Henderson. My section's pretty easy here. I think we're all burying Ramondre Stevenson a little bit too early. I will say after one preseason game
last year.
Well, after one preseason game, I look like an asshole already by having this on the show sheet. TreVeyon Henderson looks great, but I do think it's going to be primarily a pass catching role. I think Ramondre Stevenson is going to handle a lot of the carries and most of the inside the 10-yard carries. I don't hate TreVeyon Henderson. Let me be perfectly clear. Like a lot of these guys, I have him at 26. I am by far the lowest on him, but maybe it's my anti-rookie narrative that's going a little bit too far. And certainly after one preseason game, I might need to look a little deeper, especially if your league still is jumping in on the kick return, punt return bandwagon, if that's the role he's going to play. But I will throw out there, are you really going to have your feature back returning the first kick of the preseason? Thought that was a little weird. Maybe his role isn't exactly what we thought it was going to be in New England, at least not to start the season.
Remember when Kyron Williams was going to be the Rams punt returner last year, too?
I was going to say, didn't Josh Jacobs return a punt one year?
That's
no,
true.
Josh Jacobs started in a meaningless Hall of Fame game at running back.
That's what it was.
And then scored, 15 touchdowns?
Who've led into this question perfectly. Unfortunately, his guy Kamara did not make the cut. But I did want you guys to look at this group, and maybe not the guy you're necessarily highest ranked on, but who is a dark horse from this group to be a top 5 back, and what's that story? So, Josh, I just finished up my mild Haitian on Henderson. You tell me why exactly he can jump up to a top 5 back.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Literally, the first play of the game, 100-yard touchdown on the kick return. Like, he is that level of explosive, and that's what he's able to do. The same reason why I have De'Von Achane as my RB3. He scores touchdowns. He catches passes. This is what TreVeyon Henderson brings to the table. Josh McDaniels, as an offensive coordinator, he will finish in the top 7. His offense will in rushing touchdowns scored. Ramondre Stevenson is not a huge touchdown producer. But you look at what Henderson's role will be in this offense. Yes, it's going to lean very heavily pass happy, and that's fine. James White in 2018 and 2019, 123 targets, 87 catches, 751 yards, 7 touchdowns. 2019, 95 targets, 72 catches, 645 yards, 5 touchdowns. This is the type of ceiling that TreVeyon Henderson brings to the table just as a receiver. This New England offensive line got better. That's a good thing because it's only going to make an efficient back like TreVeyon Henderson that much more dynamic. If you really want like proof in the pudding how a rookie can come in that returns kicks or is only dynamic as a receiver, look no further than Alvin Kamara in 2017 was the RB3 overall, the RB4 in points per game. And oh, by the way, was in the same backfield as the RB8 that season in Mark Ingram. And that was on 120 rush attempts, but he had 100 targets. Who else in this New England offense is catching 100 balls? Because there's very few of them, in my opinion. Yeah. So that is going to paint the type of ceiling that TreVeyon Henderson can get just because of what he brings to the table as a receiving back.
Joel, you were quite upset, vocally so, in the show sheet that Josh got in before you and took Henderson. So you are going to tell us the story of Chuba Hubbard, the top 5 running back.
Yeah, this is kind of a Twilight Zone thing for me because I've always been a Chuba Hubbard hater, but he was pretty good last year. That offensive line is very good. They went out and spent some money last year. You're giving them now a full year of cohesion, working together. You've got a passing game that can actually threaten people. You can threaten people downfield that will take the pressure off the running game. So it's hard. Like Chuba, he's really bad in the passing game, but if he can just be kind of nominally okay, that's why I think there's room for Rico Dowdle as well. But if he can pick up a little bit in the passing game, then yeah, there's certainly a path for him to be a top 5 because I think this could be a very good offense. And like I said, they've got a very, very good, very underrated and very good offensive line.
I'll throw in for you a report. I happen to cover the Panthers for Football Guys on the preseason reports. One of the early reports was that they were going into the season with the running game as their focal point. And then the other point is Dowdle is working far behind Hubbard, and Dowdle's actually being chased down by Trevor Etienne now. So there's a lot going on there that is all good for Chuba Hubbard because if there's congestion behind him, it's likely going to be a lot of Chuba Hubbard and maybe, as Joel pointed out, more in the passing game. Austin, you had already talked about this guy as the guy you're highest rated on among 13 through 24, but he is also the one you see that there's a potential path to top 5.
Yeah, and it's exactly what I mentioned earlier. Clint Kubiak's going to bring like a Shanahan-style offense to Seattle. Those offenses often feature the running back, both in the run and the pass game. And I think Kenneth Walker, if he's getting that type of role, it's just going to expand his ceiling. Zach Charbonnet, yeah, he is a threat in that offense, and I do really like Charbonnet as well. I have been getting my fair share of both, but there's a world where I can see Kenneth Walker getting the bulk of the carries and ending up top 5.
For me, it's going to be Omarion Hampton, and this is a guy who I've been typically down on. The Najee injury and the stories about the Najee injury are starting to worry me. And then, as Josh pointed out, there could be someone else. And if you listen to Greg Roman's own words, he says the days of the bell cow running back are done. So he's kind of pouring water on this before I ever get there. But this is a team whose running backs scored 15 rushing touchdowns last year. And while there was no definitive like number one target, there was a definitive number one target. He just didn't see a ton of volume. J.K. Dobbins also saw 38 carries. So there is
targets, you mean?
Targets, rather. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. 38 targets. There's a world that if Najee can't get back and can't be Najee for a long period of time, that Omarion Hampton is well over 200 carries, somewhere around 40 to 45 targets, and may find the end zone double-digit times. If the efficiency's there, those types of things on a team that should be a good team, should be a run-first team, Omarion Hampton on volume alone, like we saw from Najee Harris, could push his way up there. Now, he would need a lot of targets, as everybody else does. It doesn't seem likely, so he would have to have a Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley type touchdown season. Not impossible. Unlikely, but not impossible. Since we were talking about all the rookies, I think this is a good time to wrap up this section with Millie's question. I'll be honest, I don't know that I have a ton of thoughts on Judkins at this point because that Browns offense was so bad to begin with. But Millie wants to know our thoughts on Quinshon Judkins if he ends up playing this year. Anybody feel free to chime in here.
I mean, I had him as a top 30 running back before all of this came through. I mean, I still feel that Cleveland is going to want to run the football, but I was also of the mindset that To me, it doesn't make any sense for them to play Joe Flacco. Like, they need to figure out a quarter if they have a quarterback of the future on this team. Like, a 40-year-old Joe Flacco is there simply to save someone's job, in my opinion. But let's be honest here. Joe Flacco looked like dog shit last year. He was not good. So trotting him out there behind a suspect Cleveland offensive line, like, you're trying to put this guy in a wheelchair by 45. It doesn't make any sense to me. So that's why I felt they would lean very heavily on this running game. Judkins as a feature back at Ole Miss looked really good. Splitting carries, I feel like you lost a lot of that efficiency. To me, Judkins feels like one of those guys that just gets better the more reps that he gets. And the fact they spent a pick on both Judkins and Dylan Sampson made me a little cause for pause. But anytime you have a bad offense, touchdowns are limited. And I think that's ultimately what limits Judkins' ceiling. Again, if he ends up being a lead back guy with all of this stuff that's going on, I don't see that is going to be the case in year one. And honestly, may not be for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
I just think real quick, just from the off the field stuff, like the big difference here between this and all the other, these spousal abuse cases, like, is the victim is pressing charges.
Yep.
That almost never happens. There's a legitimate chance that he doesn't play. I think you have to go in this wide eye. There's a legitimate chance that he just does not play. He hasn't signed his contract yet. The Browns are in no hurry to sign his contract. He waived his right to a speedy trial. This is going to drag on for a while. He's probably going to go, like, he can't even go on the commissioner's exempt list until he signs a contract.
Yep.
So, like, if this drags on till week 8, week 9, and you're just going to, like, you can't ingratiate yourself into the offense through practice during the week, during the NFL season. Yeah. Doesn't, like, their bye week is week 9. Like, you can't just start, okay, I'm going to show up on Tuesday and get some film done and then get in the game plan. It doesn't work that way. So, yeah. Like, just legally, there's a chance that he just never signs his contract. So if you're drafted, like, he's off my board in best ball. It's not drafted because there's such a high chance that he's a complete zero.
Yeah, he's fully off my board as well. Like, the way I was going to answer this is basically the combination of what y'all said. Like, if he plays, I could see him being top 25 because I think the lead running back in Cleveland will have some upside. It's a huge if. I don't see him playing.
Yeah. Drew Davenport is the legal expert over at Football Guys, and he brought up also that the speedy trial waiver he signed was the felony length. He said, don't read a ton into that, but also don't read a ton into that. So it's an ugly situation and someone who should not be on your draft board. Guys, before we get into sleepers, I did want to throw a little bit of draft strategy in here because I do think when it comes to running backs, it's the first time with quarterbacks. It's either are you going early or are you going late. With running backs, there's a little bit of nuance, and I've broken it down into 3 strategies. Austin, I didn't ask you why or tell you that I was making you defend robust. I guess you and Josh could switch, but I'm sure you've prepped at this point. We know what Joel is defending. So, Austin, talk to me about robust RB.
Yeah, why the hell did you make me do this? Literally, Josh and I had a fight where I was like, robust RB is like the way of like 2004.
Josh, you're muted for some reason. So,
robust RB means that you basically.
I was gonna say you don't have to defend it; just explain it.
Waste your first 2 to 3 draft picks by picking running back, and then maybe another running back with your 3rd draft pick, assuming that you're going to get all of the elite running backs and win the league that way.
I guess I should have been the one. I should have turned the host shoes over to Austin for this one because I do like robust RB because I like to just grab these guys early and not have to worry about it later in the draft. I do it in best ball. I do it in redraft. It's a strategy I don't hate, but I'm not going to. You've explained it, Austin. It's 3 running backs early. Josh, there is a counter to that, and it's called hero RB before we get into Joel's full shunning of the position. Josh, talk to us a little bit about hero RB. Yeah, Josh, you're muted. I tried to tell you that earlier. I don't know what is happening.
Sorry.
There you go. Now,
basically, your hero RB is just grabbing an anchor running back. So whether it's your 1st round pick, 2nd round pick, potentially even your 3rd round pick, maybe there's some value that falls there. But you can grab a guy that you know is going to be a top 10 at the position. They're your plug and play the entire season. And then that 2nd running back spot is where you're just kind of rotating in depth pieces. Maybe you're waiting until 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th round to get that next guy. There's some of the lower end starters, someone like a Brian Robinson Jr. could probably fit that mold. But you're also taking a lot of 0 RB targets, those sort of like second rotational running backs that might have a chance to pop if the starter gets hurt. Someone like a Jordan Mason would fit that mold as well. But it's your ability to take advantage of receiving upside, especially in PPR leagues, where you can grab that elite tight end. You can grab a lot of elite pass catchers that are more volume based at the wide receiver position that keeps your floor consistently high on a week-to-week basis. And then you're able to take advantage of those pop weeks when they happen.
And the opposite of what I did to Austin is what I did for Joel here. I put Austin in a pair of shoes he's never worn before. I've put Joel in the position he is always in. Joel, talk to us.
Well, Ryan, we know who your favorite is.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about 0 RB, Joel, because you're the best person on this show to explain it.
Yeah, so the Cliff Notes version is like very simply like targets are earned and carries are given. So if Jamar Chase gets hurt, like Andre Yoshivas is still going to be Andre Yoshivas, and Jermaine Burton is still going to be Jermaine Burton. But if Chase Brown gets hurt, then Taj Brooks is going to have a great opportunity to, he's going to get 20, 15 to 25 carries a game, just because somebody's got to do it. So you can find backup running backs late in the draft. You can find them on waivers. You will never find an elite wide receiver on waivers. So it's not just the thing that, and running back is the most volatile position. It's not just because of, injuries, which is it's a big part of it. But there's a lot of turnover in the running back. The teams use multiple running backs than they ever have. We talked about carry percentage earlier when Austin was talking about 65% just doesn't happen. Like it's a huge amount. So very few backs get 65% of touches. And like last year, 0 RB failed spectacularly. Terrible year in best ball because it was a terrible 0 RB year. It happens, but like the 4 years before that, you had to be 0 RB if you wanted to win a best ball championship. So, and this year there's so many really good 0 RB targets late in the draft. Like Braylon Allen is a great target. Will Shipley, we talked about, is a great target. DJ Giddens is a really good prospect who's going to slide in behind Jonathan Taylor, who always misses some games. So there's just, Ray Davis is probably going to get some run behind James Cook. James Cook only got 45% of the touches, had 45% of the snaps, I think, last year. So he's got a contract, but are they going to change his role that much? Are they going to give him 60 to go from 45 to 60%? Probably not. So Ray Davis is probably still a really good candidate. Josh mentioned Jordan Mason, which I hate because I'm an Aaron Jones truther, but he's in that category as well. Jalen Warren, who I wrote an article about, he's technically the RB2 behind Caleb Johnson, but I think he will be the better fantasy option. So there's a ton of 0 RB candidates this year. So I'm perfectly fine going back to the 0 RB drafting a bunch of receivers and taking pot shots at these guys who I really like at the back end of the draft.
Joel, I have one clarifying question. I host the mock draft show every Friday, and me and Austin talk about this, but I'm at least the worst person to talk about it. When you're choosing when to take your first running back, I have kind of had a steadfast rule of thumb when I do mess around with 0 RB. I will take wide receivers for as many as I can start, and then I start looking at other positions. Is that the way? I assume it's not the way you handle it. You'll just keep loading up if you can, right? Like you don't care how many you can start, or
I think the other important thing to note is that you also need, like, you're giving up probably some projection at running back. Like that's, so you can't do that at tight end and quarterback. So you have to draft quarterback and tight end as well. You need top end guy. You need top 5 guys at those positions. Gotcha. You can't afford to give up.
That's a great point.
You can't afford to give up projection at 2 positions. I'm going to draft as many as I can start, maybe one more, maybe one bench guy, but I'm also going to get a quarterback. I'm also going to get a tight end. It usually comes down to the point of where is their running back, or where's the wide receiver tier kind of drop off to where running backs are the best options in the draft. That's usually where I start going after the running backs.
There you go. And as we get into those 0 RB targets, the sleepers, I also want to talk to you guys just a little bit about Trophy Smack. That is one of our other partnerships. So it's fantasy football season. Trophy Smack has all the goods for you to show off your excellence and intimidate your league mates. You can get yourself a draft board if you guys are lucky enough to have a live draft. They are awesome. I highly recommend it. You can get championship tag to show off at game day if you won a championship last year, or if you're the commissioner, you can maybe get something for your league. Let them have the prize, their eye on the prize for what they're going to win this year. For a limited time, if you use promo code Club Fantasy, you will get a free ring when you purchase a belt or a trophy for $149 or more. I have one of their belts. It is awesome. This is a heavy duty belt. This is not something cheap. It is heavy. It sits there because I don't feel like carrying it around. You can find the link in the description of this video for our affiliate link. And if you use promo code Club Fantasy, you will get that free ring with the purchase of a belt or trophy at the purchase price of $149 or more. And then this kind of leads into what Joel was talking about. It's the sleepers. So everything we're talking about now are going to be folks outside of our top 24. I will just caution everybody who's on the show. We have 3 questions left. We are a little over on time. I assume everybody's fine, but let's address these later round running backs with the respect they deserve and maybe not as much narrative going in. So Josh, talk to me about your 2 favorite running backs that you can find outside of the top 24 and why they are your favorites.
Yeah, for me, it's Caleb Johnson and Jaden Blue. Caleb Johnson, it's really simple. Najee Harris was over 260 carries. This is an Arthur Smith offense. He wants to run the football. I don't think you're going to see a ton of targets for Caleb Johnson. That's Jaylen Warren's role. They don't really have a definitive wide receiver 2, really. So that onus is going to fall on the tight ends and Jaylen Warren. But handling the football, Jaylen Warren has never rushed for over 150 carries in a season. That is all Caleb Johnson. With Aaron Rodgers at the helm, this offense can actually score some touchdowns. And Caleb Johnson accounted for over 50% of Iowa's touchdowns just last season. This has 1,000 yards, 10 rushing touchdown upside for a guy that is barely going as a top 30 running back. So I like that. Jaden Blue, it all boils down to pass catching. He's the spark plug in this Dallas Cowboys offense. They're going to be pass heavy because the days of Javonte Williams being a feature guy, hate to say it because I love Javonte Williams, but they were over before they really got started. Let's be real here. So Jaden Blue is going to have an opportunity to work his way into that rotation, especially with Miles Sanders already dealing with an injury.
Joel, talk to me about your favorite backs outside of the top 24.
Well, I put David Montgomery because he's going to score double-digit touchdowns because that's what he does. Did I hear Austin say that RJ Harvey has no competition in the Denver backfield?
Oh,
I almost spit out my headphones. J.K. Dobbins is going to be a baller this year. Like I'm talking 2017 Mark Ingram with this guy. Like Mark Ingram in 2017 with Alvin Kamara put up 255 half PPR points. RJ Harvey's a terrible pass blocker. J.K. Dobbins doesn't get a whole lot of pass work, but he's a top 5 pass blocking running back. Man, he's a full year removed now. He's basically 2 years removed once we get to week 1 from that Achilles injury. Last year, he was about a year removed and still had a very good season. There's always going to be injury risk, but man, I think he's the unquestioned starter in this offense. Like there's the debate online about whether he lost his helmet or why RJ Harvey was the starter in the preseason game on Saturday. J.K. Dobbins should never see the inside of a preseason field ever. There's no reason for it. So I don't know why anybody cares. I think J.K. Dobbins is an absolute monster this year.
Austin, your favorite packs outside of the top 24.
Yeah, I went pretty deep on mine. So first off, I went with Dylan Sampson. This is actually just building off of the Quinshon Judkins point earlier. Yeah. Like, I think Sampson's going to be the number 1, and he has a potential to be a top 30 running back, and he is currently going way outside of the top 30. I also love Jaden Blue and was mad that Josh took him, so I'm not talking about Jaden Blue because of that. And then the other is Tank Bigsby, who is going after Travis Etienne at times, and I'm like, I just think that's wrong. I think that Tank Bigsby has won this job towards the end of last year, and he should be the number 1 running back in Jacksonville. It's a bad offensive line, so that makes me nervous, but I still feel like he's has the potential to be in the top 24, especially when you consider the other options for that to happen in Jacksonville.
There you go. I went with Jaylen Warren and Tyrone Tracy. Warren, it's the pass catching thing we've been telling you guys about this entire show. You want pass catching backs. Last year, Warren and Najee Harris split targets 48 and 48. Caleb Johnson ain't seeing 48 targets. I think Warren's role is safe. Caleb Johnson can have all the carries. I agree with Josh. What I want from Jalen Warren outside of my top 24 is for him to catch a ton of balls. I think he's going to do that. Tyrone Tracy, I think everybody cooled on with Cam Scatabo being drafted there. The drumbeat is Scatabo is nowhere near Tyrone Tracy. Tracy is the lead back in what should be an improved offense. He already showed us he could be good last year. I know he was a relative unknown last year. His name actually came up in a section of this show, and I will humble brag about that in just a few moments. But I think a lead back on a better team who's already shown us he can perform. Tyrone Tracy is a steal outside of the top 24 right now. Those are the guys that we like outside of the top 24. We did get a user question, as I see we lost Austin. Trona has a auction draft tomorrow, 12-team PPR. Any suggestions on strategy or players to target? I guess, Josh, this is that perfect section for you to talk to Trona about hero RB and Joel to talk to him about zero RB. So he put in, should he spend big money on Jamar or Bijan? I guess that's kind of where he was going. And how much would we throw on Jamar Chase with a $200 budget? So Josh, actually, no, Joel, go ahead and get us started here. If he's going full zero RB, is Jamar Chase the guy he should be targeting to spend a lot of his money on at the beginning of the draft?
Yeah, sure. King's Classic auction was this weekend here at the Expo in beautiful Canton, Ohio. I think Chase went for 52, and Bijan actually went for like 54. He was the highest.
Josh, you're muted again. You're still muted, Josh. Don't know what's going on. Nobody can hear you.
There we go. Home league auctions, Jamar Chase is going to go for like 70 plus. I can promise you that.
Probably. I will say, like,
I'm going to take this question down just because it is covering everybody's face up.
I have no strategy ever in an auction because every auction is different. You need to let the draft come to you. So, yeah, if I can say I want to go in with a zero RB mindset, but like if Bijan's going to go cheap, if the guys I like, if J.K. Dobbins is going to go crazy cheap, I mean, we'll get those guys. So, yeah, just be flexible. Let the auction come to you. Every auction is different. You have to understand that going into an auction.
Josh, if he misses out on Chase, if he gets up to $75, $80, should he look at, again, or do you agree with Joel, don't go into it with a strategy in mind?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest strategy is always like, there's one guy that I want, plain and simple. Like, there's one guy where, look, that's going to break my bank and I'm okay with it because I've got, 15 other guys where I can, have some dollar bids and win some of those.
Well, and I'll use an example. I haven't done my auction draft for this year yet, but I did an auction draft with Austin for fantasy baseball. I said, I don't care how much Aaron Judge is going for. I am paying that dollar amount. That's what I said, and it's worked out quite fucking well for me. So.
Exactly. And the upside at the wide receiver position is that there are a lot of guys that could very easily see 150 plus targets. And maybe not all of them are going to have the triple crown upside that Jamar Chase had, but they'll have 150 target upside. They'll have 10 plus touchdown upside. So even if you miss on Chase for, let's say 70, that somebody was willing to go to 75 or whatever, you can get a Brian Thomas Jr. probably for less than 50. You can get a Garrett Wilson probably for less than 40. Like, you can get quality wide receivers 2 for the price of 1 in some instances if you're not paying up for a Jefferson or a Chase, and you can still build a quality PPR team. You can take that hero RB route. I'm the highest on De'Von Achane. The industry doesn't seem to be near as high on him. A lot of people, like, he's falling into the middle of the second round in a lot of drafts. So that can play into an auction. But the thing is with auction drafts, you see this all the time, you'll end up paying up for somebody that wouldn't even be a top, 36 pick in a snake draft because people get desperate at a position if they miss. Yeah. So that's where, it's that whole being water mentality, right? Like, you've got to be able to ebb when people flow. You got to zig when people zag. Like, it's okay to pivot when needed. Just don't find yourself where you feel like you're in a bidding war for a mediocre player.
Austin, anything to add on auction drafts?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I always approach these types of drafts, and Ryan, I don't know if you recognized this at the time that fantasy baseball draft was happening, but this is what I was doing. I never, ever, ever nominate a player I want. Yep. I always nominate other players.
Fully agree with that.
That I think will go for more expensive, and that potentially enables me to get a guy like Jamar Chase, not at $70, but maybe at a more reasonable price of $40 or $50 because everybody has depleted their salaries. So that's kind of that is my only strategy when I go into this type of draft, into an auction or salary cap draft. Outside of that, like, I agree. I let the room come to me. I will focus on like where my need is in my roster at the time, and match kind of who is available to that. But my main goal is deplete everybody else's salary before mine.
Yep. Last thing I'll throw in before we move on from this one, Trone. Don't walk away with money if there's no league benefit to you walking away with money. In my auction league, that's actually my salary cap for the year. So I have to make trades fit in to that auction. So it's okay if I walk away with money. If you don't have any rules like that where Josh said getting desperate, don't even think about getting desperate. If you're in the middle and there's a guy you really want, be willing to just spend some of that money you've had banked and get $1 guys for the back of your roster. Like, go get the players you want in the middle if there's no benefit to walking away with money. All right, guys, let's get to the end of this show. This question, I was very happy with myself when I came up with it last year. I was also happy when I saw my answer to this question last year. If the last pick of your draft has to be a running back, factoring in ADP, so I want you guys to pick someone who is going outside of the ADP 150 right now. If the last pick of your draft has to be a running back, who's it going to be? Last year, folks, I gave you Tyrone Tracy with this very question. Josh, who do you got?
Way to toot your own horn, Ryan.
If you guys had done well, I would have tooted your horn as well. You didn't pick Tyrone Tracy. I did.
Oh man. I don't know. There's a lot of good options. Honestly, I feel like wide receivers are just getting consistently pumped up the draft board, but just kind of looking at it, there were a few names that stuck out, but I think the biggest one is Roschon Johnson. I mean, if you think that Ben Johnson can come in and run a semblance of the Detroit Lions offense, Roschon's going to have that David Montgomery role and be the red zone guy because, quite frankly, DeAndre Swift sucks at scoring touchdowns. He's a terrible red zone running back. So Roschon Johnson's going to have those opportunities, and that can very easily line up to be like a Brian Robinson Jr. kind of like top 30 season.
There you go. Austin?
Yeah, so I went with Sean Tucker for this question because I do not believe that Rachaad White is going to be the RB2.
Oh, this show, not believing Rachaad White. What
yes! I'm actually really surprised that we made it 80 minutes without me shitting on Rachaad White. So thank you, Austin, for doing it for me.
I think that, yes, I mean, I think it's true. I feel like Sean Tucker is the guy that was more likely to take over that RB2 role. And I think he's the guy that's more likely to take over the RB1 role if Bucky Irving gets hurt or isn't able to carry a full load himself. Sean Tucker had some nice ceiling games last year. I really like him in this offense. I would not be sleeping on him. He's like one of my favorite last round picks in best ball.
There you go. Talk about consistency. Last year, Joel, you said Braylon Allen, who you've been loving on this entire show, and Chris actually said Will Shipley, Joel.
Yeah.
Rough take for last year.
Yeah. Sucks to be Chris. Not here to defend.
If you look at my background, it's pretty obvious I'm a Packer fan. If you think that A.J. Dillon is going to be a thing a year removed from sucking for 4 straight years, I've got some oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you. The backup role to Saquon Barkley and the passing down role is going to be entirely Will Shipley's. I think that's going to be a very fruitful role for someone who's going in the late 170s, 180s on Underdog. Just an absolute smash.
There you go. And for me, it's Jerome Ford. We've been talking up this Cleveland Brown. Well, I don't want to say talking up. We've been talking about the lead back for the Cleveland Browns. And I want to just go back to something Josh said. It never made sense that they were starting Joe Flacco, but they are. And they're doing it to protect someone's job. The same rules are going to apply to Jerome Ford here. He is the known commodity. If Judkins isn't there, Sampson is going to get some run. But Jerome Ford is going to see the predominant volume in Cleveland. And right now you can get him outside of round 13. Jump on that value. All right, guys, let's close out this show with your 3 perfect running backs. I wanted you guys to take into account your draft strategy and ADP. So your 3 perfect running backs can't be Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Ashton Jeanty because that shit ain't happening. So your draft strategy and ADP. Joel, I'm going to save you for last just because yours are the guys at the end of the draft. So Josh, me, you, and Austin all went with a high-priced running back. Walk me through your 3 perfect running backs for this season.
Yeah, I found myself in this situation quite a bit this year where I have an opportunity to get Jahmyr Gibbs in round 1 and De'Von Achane in round 2. And sometimes it happens. Sometimes Achane gets picked right before me in round 2. But there's a realistic opportunity where in drafts you can start running back with those 2 guys, and you have elite pass catching floors to where if you end up going wide receiver, early tight end in those next 3, 4, 5 picks, it makes up the lack of, 160 target upside that you might be missing, right? But then I think you can round out in the 5th, maybe the 6th round, and get a TreVeyon Henderson, another guy who can very easily see 80 targets in this Patriots offense. If I've told you guys anything in this show, I love running backs that catch passes because targets are worth more than carries. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at guys that catch passes, and those 3 guys, if I had those 3 on the same team, my pants would be off all football season.
I'm almost shocked. I understand Gibbs is better than CMC, but I'm almost shocked it wasn't CMC because of how you were hyping him up with the targets as well. But
tendinitis, the key word there, scares the bejesus out of me.
Speaking of CMC, he was Austin's consolation prize. But Austin, walk me through your favorite 3 running backs for the 2025 season.
Yeah. So despite you having me, explain Josh's preferred strategy, I tend to go with the anchor RB strategy where I get somebody in the first couple of rounds and then I kind of space them out after that. So my ideal is Bijan Robinson because I think he will be the RB1 this year, but I would definitely settle for Christian McCaffrey because if Bijan isn't the number 1, it's going to be CMC. I just feel that confident in him bouncing back this year. Regardless of his tendinitis, which I'm sure he's managing. Then I go with David Montgomery because he feels like kind of like the last RB2 by ADP that I feel really comfortable with. I feel like just has the safe floor. I mean, Joel mentioned him scoring 10 touchdowns because that's just what he does. And that's what I agree with that. I feel like that's going to be him in this offense. And then lastly, I went with Tank Bigsby, who is basically serving the role of like a high upside late round guy. And so I often am picking 2 running backs in those early ranges, get the elite guy, get some like mid-tier guy that I can stomach. And then I will start throwing a bunch of darts at different high upside running backs. So it's like the moderated version. It's like I'm like in between where Josh and Joel are in my strategy.
I was gonna say, and I basically took the exact same strategy as Josh, just took different players at every pick. It's Bijan Robinson, it's Kieran Williams, and it's DeAndre Swift for me. These are just the guys I've been high on all off season long. Bijan Robinson has been my RB1 literally from the start of my rankings through now. It's not changed one time. It's been Bijan Robinson. Williams, I love the touchdown upside. Swift, I like the pass catching upside. So they both do something different for me, and I'm getting them 2 rounds apart from one another in this situation. Bookended with Kieran at the end of the 2nd round. I get to grab hopefully George Kittle or one of the really, really good tight ends, and then start to grab wide receivers next to Swift, because I imagine if you're making this pick, you're probably picking from the turn. So while all of us had early running backs, that is not Joel's forte. So Joel, wrap this show up with a 0 running back drafter's favorite 3 running backs for the 2025 NFL season.
Yeah, I started with Aaron Jones because he's usually available when I'm done drafting my wide receivers, and the rest of the guys all start to look the same. If you think Jordan Mason is going to be more than a glorified A.J. Dillon, sorry, I can't help you. Or glorified Green Bay Jamal Williams, I mean, that's just what he is. He's not going to get any passing down work. If you think he's going to be goal line back, fine. But he'll score 6 touchdowns and he'll get hurt. And then, he'll be Jordan Mason. J.K. Dobbins, we've talked about him. I think he has legitimate league-winning upside in that offense with Sean Payton. And then I put Braylon Allen. Like, this kid, he's still a kid. Like, he
21
was
years
only
old,
first
right?
available to buy a beer in January. In the playoffs of last season, he played the entire season unable to go and buy a beer. He's only 21 years old. We talked, like, they want to give him the ball. They want to give him a role. He's going to have a role in this offense. May happen, may not. If Breece Hall gets traded, again, this is a kid with league-winning upside in that offense. If he's got the backfield to himself.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, that'd be wild. I I've been on him since that rookie year too, and I love the age thing as well. Just a young kid out here. So that is going to wrap up the running back show. Hopefully you guys learned something. We spent a lot of time on the top 12, a little bit of time on the next couple group of guys, and then sleepers and draft strategy there at the end. I hope it all worked out well for you. I hope you guys are ready for your drafts. We will be back again same time next week. It's going to be a long show again as we go over our wide receiver rankings. I would urge you guys, go check out womenfantasyfootball.com. Go check out gridirongoddess.com. If you're looking to get Trophy Smack, make sure you guys use our promo code. Everything's in the description of this video. Josh wants to throw something in before I ramble us out of here.
If you want more running back information, check out Sam Holt's new show on both here at Club Fantasy YouTube channel as well as the Women of Fantasy Football YouTube channel, Sideline Banter. Her and her co-host Derek Tate from Heavy.com. They also did a round of Smash or Pass on running back tiers. So you can check out more info over there as well. It's a great
There
video.
you go. And that's why you should be following Club Fantasy here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, drop a comment if you agree with our running back rankings. If you hate our running back rankings, we'll duke it out in these YouTube streets. Thank you guys for tuning in. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. We will see you next week with wide receiver rankings.